3 girls from Southport, England have been stabbed to death while attending a Taylor Swift-themed dance party event on Monday last week. 2 of the girls were aged 7 and 1 was aged 9. 8 adults and 2 children were also seriously injured. The attacker was 17-year-old Rwandan British Axel Rudakabana, known to locals as a quiet choir boy. Usually, suspects under the age of 18 remain anonymous, but Judge Andrew Menery Casey, the Recorder of Liverpool, made an exception, saying, "Continuing to prevent full reporting at this stage has a disadvantage of allowing others up to mischief to continue to spread misinformation in a vacuum." He said his decision was exceptional, but acknowledged the balance clearly comes down in favour of the public interest in allowing full reporting of these proceedings. The prosecution said he had an autism spectrum disorder diagnosis and had been unwilling to leave the house and communicate with family for a period of time. Many people online were falsely led to believe in this vacuum of information that it was an Islamic terror attack as protesters began to attack the local Southport mosque.
Before the riot started, we came to the mosque possibly about 30 minutes before the riot started. As we approached the mosque, there's people looking at us differently than usual. We felt out of place, which we'd never done before. We were scared for our lives, and we thought at one point, are we actually going to make it through the night?
Nigel Farage, leader of Reform UK, had this to say.
But I'm worried, not just about the events in Southport, but about societal decline that is happening in our country. Law and order, folks, on our streets is breaking down. This Prime Minister hasn't got an earthly clue how to deal with it. We need to start getting tough. We need to use stop and search, regardless of the colour of the skin of anyone that gets stopped. We need tougher prison sentences for anybody carrying a knife. We need folks to get real. What you've seen on the streets of Hartlepool, of London, of Southport is nothing to what could happen over the course of the next few weeks.
The Prime Minister and the media continue to use his rather divisive label, far right. It should only really apply to, even in the words of the Prime Minister, a mindless minority. A mindless minority of violent protesters who use unjustified levels of force in order to seek retribution. The majority of those in attendance, however, were peacefully holding a vigil and protesting because they feel like they've lost their country. For many up and down the UK, Britain simply doesn't feel like Britain anymore. The protesters were even heard chanting, "We want our country back." And yet it feels as if the media and politicians are continually and repeatedly dismissing the voices of disenfranchised British citizens who raise sincere and legitimate concerns regarding the failures of integration and the lack of social cohesion in an increasingly multicultural country. The reality is there is a pattern of knife crime across Black British citizens that needs to be addressed. Over 60% of knife crime in London is committed by Black men. The Merseyside police introduced Section 60 in the Liverpool city centre ahead of the violent protests that the authorities were anticipating to erupt over the weekend. What use is that for the families of these 3 girls? But if you remember, Section 60 was subjected to public scrutiny and severe media backlash in the past because of accusations that it wrongfully targeted Black men. Wrongfully targeted Black men like Axel Rudakabana. Section 60 provides law enforcement to arbitrarily stop and search anyone in a specific area without the need to have reasonable grounds. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has previously called for an urgent overhaul of stop and search in order to prevent racial discrimination. She argues that rather intelligence-led targeting of suspected criminals helps to cut knife crime and youth killings. London. The tragic events of last Monday morning should be proof that we need more stop and search powers on Black men, not less. And if we can do it following the stabbing of the 3 girls, Elsie Dodd Stancombe, Baby King, and Alice De Silva Aguiar, can we do it for the countless Black men who face Black on Black knife crime every single day? Despite the cries from Labour that stop and search is ineffective, in 2021 the Met Police, through stop and search, seized 1,001 kitchen knives, the weapon of choice for Axel Rudakabana, 287 Rambo knives, 182 hunting knives, 295 Stanley knives, 860 lock knives, 233 machetes, 70 zombie knives, 36 swords and various other pointed bladed articles and weapons. They also seized 99 firearms. My question to the PM is, if you can target police efforts to a known threat using Section 60 for English people protesting the Southport attack, can you do the same for Black men who face the threat of being stabbed every day? 85% of people who say they carry knives say that it is to protect themselves. The Home Office's 2006 Offending Crime and Justice Survey showed that protection tends to be the #1 motive given for illegal knife carrying. What the 3 Southport girls experienced on Monday is a prevalent reality and perpetual threat facing black men. Not as what the media would describe to be institutional racism. Instead, it is other black men carrying offensive weapons like Axel Rudakabana, men who will use these weapons in unprovoked attacks all throughout London and various other cities up and down the UK, where they are rife with gangs and gang culture. Just like the response to the Southport attack for 3 innocent young girls was to increase Section 60 powers, we must also increase Section 60 without the fear of being called racist. For the sake of these little girls, for the sake of the black men needlessly dying and being stabbed in the streets of London. Use hashtag increase Section 60. Save lives.